Hello, everyone. We are back with another Uno Tech Bite, and this time we are on part 3 of our Uno recipe book entry for the DrawerFlyoutPresenter that we're using in Chefs. So just as a refresher, what we're achieving here is within Chefs, we have this notifications button here that we have, and if I click on this, it'll open up a nice DrawerFlyout experience from the bottom. And once again, if I were to make this wide and we click on this, we have this nice DrawerFlyout coming out of the right and sliding left, right? So we covered how to define this flyout. We covered we're making it customizable to use attached properties to get it to fly out and change different, lengths that it's opening and the side that it's opening from and all that stuff. Now, the last part is how we are actually getting this to integrate with the navigation extensions. So how navigation extensions, using our routes and using all that, is actually invoking our custom flyout and navigating to this in a proper way. And so what we're actually looking at here, if we look at the application again, we're invoking this from our homepage, and we have this navigation bar up here that has this notifications icon, right? So if I were to go to the homepage of our XAML in Chefs, you'll see we have this navigation bar, and we have this app bar button here. And so this app bar button has a navigation request attached property set on it that is going to say, hey, navigation extensions, please go to the notifications route, which we have to find in our route map that we'll look at in a second. But a very important thing that we have to see here is this little guy right here. So this exclamation mark means go to this route, but use the dialog qualifier. So meaning we're going to open up this route, whatever the destination of this route is, within a dialog, and don't just navigate forward from the current stack that you're on. Open this in a pop-up, in a dialog, in a whatever, and therefore it'll have its own stack sitting sort of on top of the current context that you were previously in. And so we can take a look at our app.xaml where we have set up our route maps and our view maps and all that stuff. And so you'll see we have a route map for notifications. That is how we are defining, okay, this notification route exists, and it's mapping to this notification model, and it's mapping to this notification page that is defined somewhere in this view map. And so this is actually going to be what's hosting all of our code, right? So everything that you saw in that notifications with those 3 tabs at the top, this is an actual page that we have defined up here. And that is why we have this defined in our flyout. So in our responsive drawer flyout class that we have here, we have this content as the content of our flyout, which is just going to be a grid that's hosting a frame. And we're attaching this with the region attached properties of navigation extensions. So navigation extensions is going to be able to launch this flyout, find this frame that's hosted within it, and inject the notification page into it and navigate forward to it, right? So it has its own sort of stack and its own frame navigation stack that you can have within the flyout itself. Now, the last part that we have to do is we have to customize navigation extensions a little bit because out of the box, when you say, I want to navigate to something, to this route with a dialog qualifier, it already has built into its library, it has a flyout view that it uses as the default flyout instance that already hosts a frame inside of it that basically does exactly what we did, but it lives within the navigation extensions itself. Now you can totally customize this and say, and tell navigation extensions, I want this to use my own version of a flyout that may do something similar or something different than it does within navigation extensions. Now, if we were to look at where we're setting up our use navigation in our app.xaml, so here we have our use navigation call for our host or our app builder. You have the ability to do some configurations. And so everything that navigation extensions uses is sort of resolved through the dependency injection. So you can override certain things and inject your own types and your own instances into what it's using, right? So if we look at this configure nav services method that we have defined here in Chefs, you'll see what we're actually doing is we're registering our responsive drawer flyout as the default flyout instance that will be used by navigation extensions. So anytime you use a dialog qualifier for your navigation, navigations will say, okay, give me whatever's registered for my default flyout view that I'm going to use for navigation. And this way we're overriding it to use our special drawer one. And so that is how we're actually achieving all this. So if we go to our homepage, you'll notice that what we had shown before is we're going to that notifications route in a dialog. And that is how basically it is then invoking our responsive drawer flyout, which then in itself listens for its on opening and properly sets the attached properties for the responsive drawer flyout to be opening from the left or from the right. So there are a lot of moving parts here, but that is how it all wires together and interacts with navigation extensions. So that has been a nice little series of how to do proper responsive drawer flyout navigation within Chefs. So definitely go check out the articles about it. Definitely go check out the code and further documentation on DrawerFlyoutPresenter, because there is a lot to learn here, and I know we blew through it, but I really hope you learned something, and we'll catch you in the next one.